grocery shop for like the whole fucking month. So
Wow.
I actually have food in my fucking fridge, and like I have leftovers like every fucking night, and I'm like, so this is what it feels like being an adult.
I I spend like $100 a week on groceries, and I swear to God, like it lasts a day. I come home 2 days after I go grocery shopping. I'm like, where the fuck is all my food at?
Dude, right? But like I
Then
got
I
a
look
bunch
down
of
and I'm like, oh yeah, there's fucking
yeah.
my fat gut.
I got a bunch of like I got a bunch of meat on sale. Fucking I got a bunch of chicken and like spicy sausage and breakfast meat and fucking what else did I get? Like a bunch of shrimp and fish and stuff. Like they're having this bomb ass sale. So like half my cart was just, fish and beef and chicken.
A slaughterhouse.
Pretty
Give
much.
me
I mean,
four whole, give me
I
four whole fried chickens.
I have to have meat on like if I don't have meat with every meal, then it's like not a full meal.
I know what you mean. Oh,
Like even if it's something as simple as goddamn, throwing some ground beef up in the pan and cooking that up real quick, like I
oh
can roll
yeah.
with that.
Yep. Oh hell yeah, man. Season it up.
Yep.
Make like a sloppy dough or something.
Okay, all right, guys. Well, we're live. If anyone out there watching knows by chance how to stream from YouTube over to Facebook and would mind showing me how, that would
Oh
be great.
shit.
Do we want to get into Facebook jail? Because that's how we get into Facebook jail.
That is exactly how we go to Facebook jail.
Well, all we're doing is just sharing stuff. That's all, right?
Have little Mark Zuckerberg tell us, "Oh, sorry, we're going to censor your opinion because we don't agree with it."
Yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, it all depends on who's watching. Like, if the wrong person watches, and all they got to do is report it, and like, we'll go to Facebook jail.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I-
Well, we do have a fan page now, by the way.
I saw. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we got that up and going. So, it's slowly but surely getting there. Just got to make sure that everyone knows about what we're doing and everything. So, all right, well, fuckers, how was your weekend?
Uneventful.
Filled with all kinds of pre-winter chores.
Ew,
Right.
no thank
Adult
you.
life.
So like here in Kentucky, it finally went from like 100 plus every day to like 75 at night. It's like 55, and my dumbass still has the fucking AC on at 60 at night.
But see, like, I'm fat. I can jive with that kind of weather. I mean, got the moobs and everything.
I love it. The windows are open. Fucking
Yep.
doors are open. It's beautiful here.
I leave my doors open most of the time. Like the only AC, so where I'm at, like there's window units. It's not like central air. But like I have the windows open most of the day. And I like the only window that's not open is my bedroom window because I don't like sleeping with an open bedroom window. But like the AC is on in my bedroom, and then all the windows are open the rest of the day and night. It's fucking great.
Nice.
Time of year. Time of year.
All right, I'm curious here. I want to see if maybe, let's see if we can get this to. I'm gonna see if we can go live on Facebook.
Hey, shoot the shareable link over to the chat real quick so I can post
I threw it in the chat for you.
Okay, awesome.
All right, let's see. How do I share my screen? Damn it. Whoa. That's kind of crazy. Maybe we go over here.
It's a really good thing I'm wearing pants right now because it should be an awkward shot.
That it would be. That it would be. Hey-o.
It's like, what's up, guys?
Right?
First you're talking about meat, and then you give a meat shot. No, we're going to Facebook jail.
Right.
Oh yeah, he just spent $100 on salami. All right.
Y'all need Jesus. All right, let's see if this bad boy's streaming for us or not.
Oh God. That reminds me, I was helping a buddy frame out an addition on his house, and he had a couple of his other friends there. And every time I nailed a 10-penny nail into the 2x4, I made a comment about how Jesus was a carpenter, and his two buddies were just looking at me like, "What is wrong with this fucking nailing?" Talking about Jesus.
So earlier this summer, me and my roommates, like, our dogs are assholes. They completely tore up like an entire side of the fence. Like, they would pull out the bottom sections, and so they bought a shit ton of wood so we could fix that side of the fence. And neighbors next door, we're in San Antonio, so it's like there's a lot of brown people where we live, and we had done like 3/4 of this side of the fence, and I go out one morning to do the rest of it, and like, it's all torn down. I'm like, yo, what the fuck is going on? It's like the neighbors had decided to fix the rest. They decided to fix the rest of it, and so we were replacing the side. They were replacing the back, and all that was left was like this probably like 6-foot section of the corner. So they just fixed that part too. I walked out there, and like, so the neighbors next door like don't speak to anybody. Like, they don't talk to anybody except for the little kid. Like, the kid gets out and he's like, "What's up, man? How you doing, neighbor?" And he's like totally cool. The rest of them are assholes. But I walked out there one morning and they were fixing it. And I was like, "Yo, what up, Jesus?" I did not expect this. Did not expect this at all. He goes, no, Jesus, Jesus. And I was like, oh shit.
Well, that's like the meme where you see the white people around the table at Thanksgiving, and they say, "Thank you, Jesus, for this meal," and then it shows a farm worker, and he's going, "De nada."
Yep.
Yeah.
Another reason why we're all going to hell. All right. Well, let's get this thing rock and rolling. So, first thing, I don't think we talked about it last week, but, Ryan, I saw your post about Colin Kaepernick. So let me ask. So the whole sphere of Colin Kaepernick, is it one part, for lack of a better term, I'll just say Black Lives Matter? Is it one part police brutality? Is it one part not knowing how to actually spread a message? Is it also one part Kaepernick is, as a Niners fan for life, that Kaepernick is just a shitty player, and so therefore his message was kind of diluted? So first thoughts. Do you think it's disrespectful for Colin Kaepernick to kneel during the national anthem?
No.
Absolutely.
All right.
That's 100%.
Okay, Ryan, why do you say no?
I say no because it's a hang on, I just got a work thing. Oh, okay, whatever. No, so it's a form of protest. Protest is protected under the First Amendment. Like, this country as a whole has a notorious, long-standing history of trying to decide when, where, and how, and why people can protest. And I don't agree with his protest. I think he's mostly full of shit. I think he used it as a publicity stunt because he was a failing football player and
Agreed.
Thought that.
How about Garoppolo? 4-0. Thank you. Carry on.
But at the same time, I've got a lot of family who participated in the civil rights movement. My godmother was a fucking Panther. My grandmother did a lot, and the same people that are telling people who look like me that what Colin Kaepernick was doing was disrespectful and he shouldn't have done that and this and that and the other are the children of the same people that were telling my grandmother and my godmother that they couldn't do what they were doing.
Yeah.
So, like,
So, and Angelo,
I
your 2 cents. Oh, sorry, Ryan. Go ahead.
and I was just going to end with, I don't think the act itself is disrespectful, especially not when the overwhelming majority of veterans and troops are like, I mean, that's exactly why we do what we do, so that people can do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think the act itself was disrespectful. I think the way that he did it and what I believe are his motivations for doing it, I think that is where that's what was disrespectful. But as far as kneeling, I don't think that was disrespectful. Fucking Olympics. And we had two people who had been subjected to, bullshit. And they stood up on the fucking podium and raised their hands. And the entire world fucking castigated and condemned them for that. So,
I mean, that's probably, one of the more poignant pictures that's ever come out of the Olympics.
I used to have that hanging up on my wall.
Yeah. All right. So, Angelo, your 2 cents on Kaepernick kneeling for the flag and the national anthem?
I agree with everything that Ryan said. The only thing that, and again, and I've had this conversation with quite a few people of both white and African American heritage, and I've had people on both sides disagree. And here's my reasoning for it: is it all comes down to just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And the test that I put to it is, you're right. He has the right to. Any of us have the right to. But if that's whatever your message is, whether it's civil rights or you want to bring awareness to veterans, whatever your message is trying to get out, there's much better ways of getting the message out in a manner that is going to include more people and really get you listened to. Because I mean, just like Ryan said, the guy's a fucking washed up. He was a shitty football player to begin with. And a lot of it was obviously the media hyping it up. And it was a very smart tactic. It was an extremely smart marketing tactic for everyone that bought onto it, Nike and all that. I mean, but the people that buy into that style of behavior, I really think they don't have the best interests of what American freedom is. Many of them probably haven't served. Many of them probably haven't done anything more in their lives, let alone for America, other than put their hand out and say, fill it for me, because I'm too fucking lazy to fill it for myself.
Yeah.
However, again, I understand that I'm not of African American or black or whatever it is heritage. I'm third generation Italian American. My great grandparents came over here, and they were subjected. From what little I know, I don't know a lick of Italian. I'm American through and through, but from what little I know, I can relate to that very broad concept. Is back in the 1910s, 1920s, the Italians were basically the south side of Chicago and New York. They were like the black people back then. They were the ones that society kind of shunned, along with the Irish. But here's the thing: is that again, I'm not saying it's not trying to wrap everyone into the same boat, but I don't see Italian people en masse complaining to this day about how society should treat them better, or how Italians were or still are dealt a different hand. We assimilated. We assimilated to American culture. We fought through whatever hardships were bestowed upon us, and we persevered as a people. My thing about it is, someone who is representing our nation in the Olympics or as a professional athlete, someone who has the ability to influence the masses. I think just like we as service members, how they always used to tell us, you can have your opinions, but you can't have them in uniform, because when you got that uniform on, you represent something bigger than just yourself. So you better shut your fucking mouth and stand tall. So it's the same.
I have a hard time personally in regards to Kaepernick. I have a hard time keeping a straight face and believing anyone that looks like a afroed version of Squidward. Personally,
and the other thing to me that I find extremely odd is, isn't the dude half white? So if you're fighting for, whatever, black rights against police brutality, no one finds it odd that the dude is half white. I mean,
Yeah.
why does that even matter? You know, why is it even still a fucking thing in 2019? You know, when is it going to stop? When is I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of stupid shit, horrible shit that happens every fucking day to black people, white people, men to women. But for God's sakes, I mean, at what point do people as a whole stop pointing the finger at one another and just take responsibility for their own actions and say, you know what? I mean, again, I'm no civil rights activist. I never studied this shit. I could personally give, you know, this is just me. I can give two shits or a fuck less. I don't care about women's rights, but none of that. I'm American through and through. I care about getting up every day and going to fucking work and trying to make my world, my American world, a little better. So just focus on that. If people focus on working harder a little more, and everyone's got a voice, but it's what you do that really sets the example. And if these guys and girls out there did something more with their skills and their stature, physically did something instead of just blabbering on about it, bitching and moaning. That's really anyone thinking of education. That's what they see. Oh, here's another pain in the ass bitching and moaning about something. You know.
Well, not only that, what about the fact was the Department of Defense paid something like $19 million to the NFL for patriotic endorsed events?
That's exactly why I don't think that what he did was fuck. I don't believe.
No, I'm sorry. Like $20 million could go towards, I don't know, this thing called the VA that is significantly backlogged.
Right. I don't think the national anthem should be played at sporting events. I mean, I catch a lot of flack for that whenever I say it, but I don't think that sporting events should be used to trot out false patriotism.
Yeah.
Like, you want to see fucking patriotism? Yo, go to fucking NASCAR where they have a fucking preacher at the racetrack and he prays and everybody there is cool with it. Like, that's one thing. But to sit there and pay the DOD or to sit there and get paid for pretending to be some sort of fucking patriot, I have more of an issue with false patriotism than I do with someone who wants to protest at a certain time. So, like, the thing is, I'm half white.
You lucky bastard.
I don't
with your
look
fucking
at it. I don't look it, but at the same
Costa
time,
Rican eyes and shit. Fuck you, you fucking prick.
But so,
I hate you so much.
The difference between me and Kaepernick, I don't really look half white. I look mixed, but I don't look half white.
Yeah,
I have dreads. I've had several people several times tell me that if I wanted to be taken seriously in my work field, you guys know I work in politics, then I needed to cut my hair. I've had people fucking sit there and say I can't take anybody seriously who has that kind of hair, and then I walk into the fucking room and I'm the one giving the fucking presentation. So
yeah, that's
like there's so many like different things, and I hear a lot of people make the statement that, you know, their father, their grandfather or whatever, you know, they as Angelo put it, assimilated, and that's great. It's great that they were able to do that, but guess what? When you look like me, it ain't that easy to assimilate.
So, okay, well,
that's true. I guess that's true in a social perspective.
Let's go on that tangent then. Because, I mean, so one of the beautiful things about, one of the things I think that makes America great, and whenever I start off with that, I always think of, what was that show where the college kid asked the guy, you know, why is America the best country in the world?
Newsroom. Newsroom. Aaron Sorkin, Will McAvoy, Newsnight with Will McAvoy.
Yeah.
I love that show. That is like my second favorite show in the world.
It's like that speech, I mean, I fucking love it. But one of the things I think that makes America great is the fact that we are, I don't know of any other country in the world, and all of us have been around the world. We've experienced cultures from all around. We are this Heinz 57 on steroids mix of cultures from all over the world. You've got, you know, Louisiana, which has, you know, a lot of French influences to it, and you've got, you know, Boston, which is, you know, deeply Irish, and, you know, other parts of, and, you know, the other parts of New York that are deep Italian and Polish, and all these other parts of the country that, have all these just different mixtures. And no country, I've been to 26 different countries. No other country have I ever been to where they had the diverse mix that we do. Not even by,
Right.
I mean, a fucking gnat's cunt hair could we even come close. Well, that being said, do you think that when people immigrate to the U.S. that they should assimilate?
Well, here's the thing about assimilation is assimilation, at least to me, it sure as hell doesn't mean leaving your traditions behind. I mean,
No, not at all.
When a family unit or a group of people come from like the Italians or the Irish did, in the early 1900s, they brought their traditions, their food, their religious beliefs, all that good stuff with them. But the key thing is they came here knowing that America was going to allow them a better chance at existence. And along with that came, you need to just like the Pledge of Allegiance. You leave behind. There's, like Teddy Roosevelt said, a man who claims to be American and something else is no American at all. You can't be American and French or American and Italian or American and gay. No, you're just American, and that's the biggest issue. And that's what upsets me. Is in this day and age, you'd think we would get back to that because, like you said, no matter what other country you go to, like I remember being in Iraq. I think we all do, and you got black guys, Hispanic guys. Hell, I had a dude who was a Mexican citizen. He was on the fast track to American citizenship, fighting for his new country in Iraq, and he's still a Mexican citizen. But that's exactly it. To the outside eye, to the Iraqi eye, it doesn't matter if you look like Ryan, you look like me, you look like a woman. You're all American. I don't give a shit about black. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I go with all this. Is we're the only ones who piecemeal each other and literally tear each other apart like fucking wolves when we're all American. Start acting like it. You know what I'm saying?
So there's a couple things to that. You and I had very different experiences.
Doesn't matter what your hair looks like. It doesn't matter what color your eyes are. For fuck's sake. I mean, goddamn.
You and I had very different experiences in Iraq because the locals that I worked with on a daily basis specifically asked me about the disparity between ethnicities in America. They specifically brought up how different ethnicities within America are treated within the military. They specifically pointed out that how they felt, I guess you could say, the Arabic translation is not as close to what I'm going to say. I'm paraphrasing, but how they felt essentially better working one-on-one with an American minority than a white American. So your experience and my experience were two different things. They didn't see us when I was there as all just American. We were definitely differentiated, and they pointed out every single difference in all of us. But even with that, just about every other country has its own unique cultural identity.
Yeah.
America is a melting pot because America is literally a nation of a whole bunch of people from a whole bunch of different places that just came here and was like, all right, fuck it, I live here now. So we don't have a distinct American cultural identity. France does, Germany does, Poland does, Canada fucking does, for crying out loud. But we don't. So when people say, you know,
I think we very much do have an American identity.
We think we do. We think we do, because to us we do, but to the world at large, we're still the youngest country. We're still the baby.
You're talking about from the outside.
We still don't have an identity of ourselves. You know, literally every other country is at least, minus Canada, but like every other country is like at least 200 to 300 years older than America is. So you know, we think we have an identity, but to the overall rest of the world, we really don't. And so we have all of these people. We have all these people that say, you know, French American, even African American or whatever, and in a purely American sense, it's one thing to say you're not a hyphenated American, you're an American. But I mean, at the same time, though, you yourself just described you just described yourself as, you know, Italian American.
Well,
So,
I only did so for the perspective of the argument. I mean,
right,
I've
but
myself as an Italian American. It's not, you know, when someone says, "Oh, what nationality are you?" Well, I'm American. Are you asking me what my heritage is? You know, I would say 90% Italian and 10%
Yeah,
Canadian.
I think that's that's where, you know, I guess the difference lies is what you currently identify with and what your heritage or your ethnicity your heritage
Well,
or your ethnicity.
right. But here's the
it's
thing.
not so much
So
being where identity lies. It has to be with being technically proficient. You have to be clear with what you're asking people. I think a lot of times
Yeah,
in
that's
this
true.
conversation, people don't clarify. People, I mean, just as we kind of did until it was clarified, we're not differentiating between what we identify as, because I mean, you can identify with whatever the fuck you want. It doesn't make it true. I can
Right.
identify. You know what I'm saying? I would love to be 16 years old and not be fat and you know, be a kid again. But I'm not. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you got to be realistic.
but here's the
You know
thing,
what I mean?
though.
But your heritage, you can't change that. That's not up for negotiation. Your genetics are what they are. You know, I mean, it's like trying to take away. You know, you were in the Navy, you were in the Army, and I was in the Marines. You can't take that away. You can't just pick up and say, "Oh well, I don't want to be that anymore." No, you may not be active in it, but it's always going to be a part of who and what you are.
Yeah.
You know? Just
But
like
here's the
being
thing.
American will always be a part of who we are.
Here's the thing, though. So, purely in terms of people saying, you know, African American, I hate the term African American simply because I've never been to fucking Africa. Bitch, I was born in Denver, Colorado. I don't know shit about Africa. But at the same time, you know, just about everyone I know who isn't a minority can trace back their heritage at least 3-4 generations. I know motherfuckers who have like coats of arms that are like 800 years old and shit.
Yeah.
But I can't do that. Most of people who look like me, we can't do that. We can't go past.
Right.
We can't go back past our grandparents. So for Black people as a whole to say African American, it's an identity.
Well, I mean, shit, I've got a friend of mine who's Jamaican, and he's like, "Don't fucking call me African. I'm not from fucking Africa. I'm from Jamaica, motherfucker."
Okay, but
No?
he's from Jamaica. Jamaica's a small place. Like, he can trace back his family. For most of us, we cannot do that.
Yeah.
I can't go past
the 1700s.
I can't go past my grandfather.
Yeah.
You know, my grandfather was raised by a white German dude. And that's as far back as my family name goes, because we got that name from him. So for most of us that say African American, you know, literally almost, I'm not gonna say literally, but almost everybody else we know can lay claim to some sort of heritage. We can't. Yeah. So, you know, that's all we have. And so there's everything is multi-layered. You know, we can say we're not hyphenated Americans, we're Americans, but at the same time, even within America, each individual group or subgroup still surrounds itself with and congregates with those in that same group. You go to any major town, you've got little Italy, you've got little Cuba, you've got, you know, little Tokyo or whatever the fuck you call it. Like, every group, you know, so many people want to sit there and say, "Oh, stop segregating yourselves," but every fucking large culture in America does it. But it's only a problem.
But it's voluntary. People want to find that comfort among similarity.
Right. So why is it only a problem? Why do we only tell certain people to not do that when literally every other group in the country does that?
Well, I think it, and again, this is just, you know, it's a very broad subject here. I think it has to do with the terms of the congregation, if you will, of why the people are of why that a group is banding together, and more importantly, their actions that they're taking and their mannerisms and the legalities of it. Are they doing it simply for social betterment? You know, like Little Italy or Little China. In other words, just a bunch of people with similarity that live around one another. Really, nothing more. You know, it's not like there's not a social. They're not using that that concept of being together for any kind of outcry, so to speak. Here's the part where it usually gets a little bit gory between the people, you know, talking about it. And I always get told, well, you just don't understand. Well, you know what? Okay, I'm sick of fucking being told I don't understand. All I see as, I guess, a white dude. I mean, I suppose if I have to classify myself a white dude, I mean, I'm poor. You know, I mean, I've been told that I'm the black person of the Italian race, being from Sicily. So whatever. Apparently, I don't understand. Okay, well, help me understand. Help me understand, because what I see from the outside looking is a group of people who are complaining about being treated differently, yet at almost every single turn, they're receiving preferential treatment. There's government-sanctioned preferences towards minorities. There's government-sanctioned black preferential colleges. There's government-sanctioned preferential treatment, where me, as a quote white person, I can't claim any of those preferences. If I even attempt to try and start a white male only group for whatever reason, I'm going to be labeled a racist, regardless of whether that group is for any kind of social betterment or anything. Even if it's
unless you're Elizabeth Warren.
I can understand
well, there
that.
you go, because I could claim to be a Native American. But that's exactly my point, is that from the outside looking in, if you want to be treated equally, then stop withdrawing yourself and demanding in such a violent and agitative way that you as a group or you as a person should be given preferential treatment. If you want to be treated equally, you need to act equally. If you don't want to be, the N-word is a perfect example of that. You know, and that's another one. Oh, well, we take the power back. It's a fucking word. The word has no power. It's your brain that gives it power. And I don't know a single educated, successful black person that uses that N-word in any way, shape, or form, whether it's with an A or with a
I use it all the fucking time.
Outside of the rap industry. You know what I'm saying?
So I'll throw my 2 cents in here, and there's 2 different groups. There are, first off, the major fucking problem with all of this is it should not be the goddamn government's decision on who to give perks to or not to give perks to.
Exactly.
Beyond that though is, and I'm going to blame a lot of this on mainstream media, because they're the ones that proliferate this fucking madness, because
where we get a lot of it's the primary source of a lot of our information.
It's yes and no. I mean, like, the news of today is not the news of 30 years ago. It's not even remotely close. It's like
Anderson Cooper is not Tom Brokaw.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have Dan Rather, giving, the nightly news from an unbiased perspective. But part of it is, so let's talk about, perks for minorities here for a second. I had a few buddies that I went to high school with that were undocumented. They joined the Marine Corps, and 9 months later, they had their citizenship. Tell me, I see nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But is that a perk? Yeah, because guess what? That person just skipped 7 years worth of costly political, paying people off, bribery bullshit for immigration. Like, immigration in itself is just a fucking joke.
Right. Well, but if you said that, there's absolutely no way that they could have been undocumented. They had to at least have their green card. There's absolutely no way a person can join military service without being here legally. There's absolutely no way.
Well, I
You
mean,
you have to at least have a green card. Like, you have to be here legally to join the service. And even then, you can only be an enlisted person. You cannot be an officer.
well, so this was post 9/11 when, I mean, like I saw some of the people that recruiters were putting in the military, and let's be real, like those people should have been licking boogers off of fucking windows instead of being in the military.
Hey,
But so I mean, obviously, like
we're
I
not
think
far
it,
behind.
it's, I mean, it's a huge, you know,
So
huge
like,
divide there. But yeah, I mean, like Ryan, would you take advantage if you being mixed, would you take advantage of perks that are given to you as a minority? And I don't want to use the term perks, but that's the best word I can come up with right now.
that's always been a sore spot for me. Uh, Growing up, every time I had to fill out a form, um, even around the time I joined the army, I didn't, now how they have, select all that apply,
Yeah,
or they had the other box for most of my life growing up until I reached like mid adulthood. I didn't have those options. I was forced to choose one or the other.
yeah,
Right. They didn't even
So,
give you the option back then.
and there were times where just because I am who I am, I like selected like white just to piss people off. And it was a problem. And I'm like, but I am half white. And there, but here's the thing. Doesn't matter. When you look at me, that ain't what you see. So
right.
the attempted advantages. I don't think any of us like the term perks. I'll go with attempted advantages. The attempted advantages that are afforded some people have always been a sore spot for me. I was never really sure whether or not to try to take advantage of those. It was suggested that I apply for minority scholarships for college and all this other stuff. I didn't, but at the same time, I've had several people who are also, very successful, very well educated, and worked hard for everything that they have. And they were like, dude, literally everybody else in the world takes every step they can to put themselves up higher. Why would you
Right.
intentionally reject something that could help you, And so it's,
How can you help change what is if you're not educated, if you're not successful?
no, not that. Put it this way. Take wealth, for example. Largely within the white community, wealth is, or at least can be, inherited. That's not really a thing in the black community. There's not a lot of inherited wealth in the black community. So you see these kids who grow up in nice areas and they go to these private schools and they get these jobs after college, and their dad gives them X amount of money. Take Trump, for example. His dad was able to give him $1 million loan. Yes, it was a loan. Yes, he paid it back. I get that. But the simple fact is that his father gave it to him. His father had it in the first place. That doesn't happen for the most part within the black community because we don't have that kind of wealth. So the scholarship or the you can call it preferential hiring or whatever, that in the black community is seen as the same kind of step as inheriting wealth from your parents in the white community. The issue with my rejection of stuff like that, personally, I don't want anybody to be able to say you wouldn't have that if I didn't do this or give this to you. That's always been my philosophy, and everybody that has ever done something for me, I've done my best to pay them back somehow. But it was discussed quite a bit. Hey, we didn't have these advantages. I couldn't take advantage of shit like this, so I had to, go through some things in order to get where I am. You don't have to go through that. You can take advantage of this and that and the other. Why are you being prideful and rejecting this when you can use this to further yourself? That's what that conversation was about. But in terms of, I still honestly can't say yes or no to whether or not I would take advantage of something like that. It's, for me, it's something that I'm always in contention about. because I see where, and this is where it kind of sucks growing up a mixed kid in America. I see where both sides are coming from.
Yeah.
Like I hear one side and I'm like, you know what, that's legit, and I hear the other side and I'm like, you know what, that's legit too. The thing is,
Yeah.
when it comes to, like, we were talking about citizenship and everything else. I don't believe that people should have to join the military just to get citizenship. Like,
Well, they
great for
don't.
I know, but great for the ones that did that and went through that process. That's awesome. But then again, that's an advantage that other people outside of the military didn't have.
Yeah.
Well, it's not so much.
So, like,
It's not. That is more of not a thank. It's a reward. It's a reward for serving, just like our, I guess, reward.
Our reward is outrageous amounts of alcohol, tobacco,
Right.
Tylenol, and
There you go.
ibuprofen.
alcoholism, divorce, and a lifetime of bad choices.
Yeah.
But
Well, hey.
Was it,
So
you're a
Well,
veteran
well,
if you have a DD 214, a bankruptcy, and a divorce?
well, it was DD 214, divorce, and bad credit.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like,
All right.
but
Well,
here's the
but
thing.
See, here's the thing: is those are all free choices. We all made the choice. No one put a gun to our head and said you're going to join the service in a time of war. No one put a gun to our head and said, "Oh, you're going to do this or else." You see, these are all things that I guess repercussions of our actions,
Yeah.
if you want to call it that. We might not have been thinking about 15 years down the road after we're done with our tours of service, how we're going to feel, how our bodies are going to be, how our minds are going to be. But we it's not like we didn't know it was a possibility. We saw our parents and our parents' friends from the Vietnam era and how some of them turned out. Not all of them. There are many, many successful, brutal combat veterans from all eras that never, that started their own businesses or worked their ass off, and they might, they struggled just like we struggle with our own individual things, but they didn't end up in the gutter like some of the guys do. And then there's the same thing, people from our generation who, gave it everything we had, saw some heinous shit, took part in some heinous shit, and are completely successful because we make a choice. And that's exactly where I'm going with this, is we make a choice. That's why I think a lot of this comes down to, yes, impressions, but that's humanity. We will never be able to legislate our interpretation out of humanity, which is why people look at you different for having crazy ass hair, where if your hair was clipped trim like every other fucking person out there probably is, you'd be perfect, like, like with just like in the military. They didn't allow that. Everyone's hair, you had regulations. So who gives a shit? I don't remember ever thinking, oh my God, this black dude standing next to me is not going to be able to swim any better than me because he's got certain type of hair. No, you're not able to swim because you've got no fucking technique. That's why. And I knew just as many white dudes who couldn't swim as I did black dudes. And I knew just as many of each who overcame those, that insecurity, that lack of confidence, and they gained something. And I guess that's where I'm going with this, is that's what makes our country great, is that no matter who you are, where you come from, whether you're first generation or 20th generation, you might be given certain preferences, like Trump's family was, but you still have the same opportunity to make something of yourself. Any one of us could be a doctor if we worked hard enough. Any one of us could be president if we truly wanted to,
So here's the thing, and then this is what people are trying to say, and I think a lot gets lost in translation. A lot gets lost in the emotion of the conversation. There's not a single thing that you just said that was incorrect at all, and I agree with all of it. However, the issue isn't the lack of opportunity. The issue in a lot of places and for a lot of people is, you said, we all make choices. Well, in order to make a choice, you have to have certain options. So here's the thing.
Those options
in a lot of these neighborhoods, take the neighborhood that I moved from when I came back to Texas. And I can't think of a better example It's right on the water. It's right on the bay. And on one side, you have multi-million-dollar, 120-year-old fucking big ass stone houses, and this is where all the wealthiest people in the area live. You go 1 mile to the, I want to say east. Yeah, 1 mile east. And there's a short bridge. It's like maybe a 50-foot bridge. And you cross that bridge, and it is a whole other world. That's the fucking hood. That's the projects. Half of those people don't have electricity.
You sure you're not talking about Norfolk?
Half of them don't have electricity. Norfolk is bad. But like half of them don't have electricity. Half of them don't have, running water.
Wow.
I'm talking about East End Newport News.
Christ.
Fucking, so like, here's the thing. Both sides can see the other side. It's right there. It's across a fucking 50 to 100-foot bridge. However, nobody on either side of the bridge ever thinks they'll live on the other side. Those kids growing up on the East End Newport News, they see these houses, they see this neighborhood, but those options are not there for them. The options that they see in their environment, it's the fucking plug, it's the weed man, it's the fucking cops patrolling all day, all night. The kids growing up in the neighborhood on the other side, their options are private school. Their options are, programs and events and this and that and the other. So ain't nobody going to cross that fucking bridge. Those options are completely different. And it's less, it's not even a quarter of a mile. So when you have somebody in a certain environment, you choose based off of what is in your environment. You choose based off of what your reality tells you can grab. That's not to say that or justify, the dumb shit people do and the bad choices people make. It doesn't justify doing drugs or robbery or sticking people up or what the fuck ever. It doesn't. But at the same time, it's easy to say make better choices. But how do we expect people to make better choices if they also at the same time don't have better options to choose from? So, going back historically.
That's a very tough one.
Going back historically.
Oh, go ahead, Ryan. I want to piggyback off of that, though.
Yeah, going back historically, in particular with the black community, after the Civil War and Reconstruction, we had 4 to 6 million black people in the country who had no education. They had limited manual labor skills. And you're free, but you have no money, you have no education. Now go live your lives.
It's the Shawshank Redemption.
And then we fast forward and we're like, you're separate, but you're equal, but we're not, because we still have no money, we still have no education, we don't have a foundation upon which to build this. So then you fast forward again, and you have Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1929. And you had black people who literally built their own schools so they could teach themselves and they teach their children, and they build up what became known as Black Wall Street. And then you have literally everybody in every town around you come through and firebomb what you built. Then you fast forward again, and now we're integrating schools, but we're still operating based off of the same highly inadequate foundation. So it's easy to say you're equal, we're all equal, make better choices, but how do we expect an entire group of people to make better choices when they're still working off of the same fucked up foundation they've had for the past 200 years? So then you just keep fast forwarding and you keep saying, you're equal, you're equal, you're equal, but we're not making the foundation any better. So again, that doesn't justify bad decisions that people make, but it's like taking a fucking beat up ass Chevy and you just throw new tires on it every now and then, but you don't fix the engine, you don't fix the transmission, you don't maintain the car. And you keep telling that Chevy, go faster, motherfucker, go faster. You're a car just like every other car.
Yeah.
It's all, what's the word? It's all cosmetic.
It's odd that you It's odd that you make that analogy, because I mean, again, all joking aside, at least again looking around here where I live in Norfolk, that I see quite a bit. I'm not saying there's not white people that don't drive vehicles like that, but historically speaking, reasonably speaking, generally speaking, I see a lot of lower class black people with like a 12-year-old Mercedes Benz that ain't worth shit, but it's a Mercedes Benz.
Yeah.
And they'll drop more than the vehicle's worth in wheels and tires and electronics in there. And then that's it. And they'll just drive around the freaking city with their music loud. And here's the thing, and again, like I said, it's a generalization. And are generalizations true? Not always. But generalizations stem from somewhere. Just like when they say Dago Italian bastards are greasy. You're goddamn right. In the middle of summer, you could fucking fry a pizza on my forehead. I'll be the first one to tell you that. You know?
Well, I mean, you're right about that, and that that idea. So, like I said, all the fixes that historically this country has tried to apply to this particular group of people, they've all been cosmetic. So that Mercedes, that fucking BMW, and I've commented on those as well. The Mercedes and the BMW, those are cosmetic fixes. It's not. It doesn't actually improve your situation. I'd rather drive a 30-year-old beat up truck than waste money on a brand new car. Like, that's just me though. But as a group attitude, if you will, cosmetic fixes are what we've been presented with the entirety of the time we've been in the country. So that's what we go to. And again, everybody makes different choices, and there are always a select few who learn to look outside of the immediate choices they have in their environment. I always use Ben Carson as a reference. The dude grew up in the hood, but he did not become a hood nigga. Like, his mom made him go to the library. He had to do weekly book reports. He educated himself, and he became the predominant. He became the premier pediatric surgeon. Yeah, but the thing is,
those are the examples. That's what I have such a hard time understanding, is because there really are. The more you look, the more examples of people like Ben Carson you find in the black community. So why is it that so much of the black community admires idiots like fucking Colin Kaepernick when they have so many Ben Carsons around?
Because again, it goes back to the whole cosmetic fix thing. The Democratic Party is great at cosmetic fixes. You know, they'll every election cycle. No, not even that though. But like every election cycle, what does the Democratic Party trot out? All these things that they can say they're going to do for black people that make us feel better, right? They don't actually do anything, but they say all of the things that we want to hear. It's a cosmetic fix. So, you know, it's like out of sight, out of mind. Once you leave your immediate environment, you become kind of invisible. So what do you gravitate to? You gravitate to what you normally see. You gravitate to whatever impacts you on an emotional level.
Ryan,
so
have you ever seen
Go ahead.
Duality Duel by Daniel Beatty?
Honestly, I think I have it saved somewhere. It sounds really familiar.
From Def Jam?
Yeah, in that case I definitely have it somewhere.
It's I mean, I would like to share it with you guys because I mean, using Ben Carson as the example, and Daniel Beatty, like the first I've watched this video, God knows how many times, but I mean, it's poignant because it's like the fact that he calls it the duality duel, and I absolutely love it. But this is something that I think, regardless of your race, if you are, I think unless you are ultra fucking rich, I think everyone should pay attention to this because I think it holds a lot of bearing, and I think it, it could really, paint a better picture for everyone. So I'll play. It's about 2 minutes long, so I'll play it for you guys. You guys can hear it?
No.
No, I can't.
I think there's there's something lost in trying to play a third party video through this app.
That sucks. I was able to play that video for you guys the other day, wasn't I?
Yeah, but most of the time I can't hear it.
Oh, damn.
Put
All right.
the
Well, I'll
link
throw
up
it in the
so we can
links.
check it out later. Yeah.
Yeah, throw it in the link.
Yeah.
But so like, take being like growing up a mixed kid, you know, you don't fit in anywhere. You really don't.
Yeah.
So here's what a lot of mixed kids end up doing. They go to one extreme or the other. Either they go super black. Like, I'm sorry, you'll see some of the lightest skinned ass niggas acting like they're fucking hood.
Right.
And they go hard because in this environment, you have to pick one.
Yeah.
So you have the ones that go to one extreme and they wear the Sperry's and the fucking Dockers and all that shit. And then you go to the other extreme and, you know, they're fucking Colin Kaepernicks. They're like super black activists that were raised by white people. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But like you don't fit anywhere. You're too light for the black people, and you're either too dark or just dark enough to be acceptable to the white people.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've dealt with that my entire life. I still deal with it to this day. So, you know, after I got out the army, you know, I kept my hair short for I've never had long hair in my life until I grew out and fucking got my hair locked up. I always got it high and tight since I was a fucking freshman in high school. And then as soon, and it's funny because the same social experiment has been done plenty of times. There was a guy that lives in New York, and I can't remember his name, but I follow him on Twitter. And very, very intelligent guy, very successful. He wanted to see something. So for like a week, you know, he dressed like a street skater kid, you know, whatever. And he would go into these places and he would record how he was treated. Then the very next week, you know, shaved, got a haircut, wore the suit that he usually wears to work. And he goes into all of these places and of course they don't recognize him, but they treat him completely fucking different. And it's not necessarily to say that it's all a bad thing, but what the country overall needs to do is simply accept that we treat people differently based off of any number of indicators instead of trying to pretend that we treat everybody equally, because we don't. I sure as fuck know I don't. Somebody comes into my office for an interview and they act or they dress or they present themselves in a certain way. I treat them according to that. The next person comes in and they act and dress and present themselves a certain way. I treat them according to that. Like, we have to get away from this supposition that we treat everybody equally, because we don't. We definitely treat people differently. So if we can just accept that, we can learn how to not be assholes about it and simply accept the differences. But we're so busy with trying to pretend that we treat everybody equally, and we don't. We never have, and we never will.
All right. So So Ryan, if you in the movie, I'm sure you've seen Pursuit of Happiness, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. If you were that bored and a man comes in with paint all over the place, hair disheveled, wearing a wife beater, would you listen to what they had to say, or would you tell them? I mean, you were talking about a Wall Street office here. Would you listen to what they had to say, or would you tell them to get out?
It depends. I'm kind of like the wrong person to ask, because, you know, I've been homeless. I've literally lived on the street. I've eaten out of trash cans. I've washed my ass in the fucking woods with a jug of water. So I am more likely to listen to a person and judge based off of the vibe I get from them than I am to simply judge them based off of their appearance.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen plenty of people who presented well and were complete shitbags, and I've seen plenty of people who didn't present well but were insanely intelligent and ended up being some of the best people I've ever worked with. So I'm like the wrong person to ask, because again,
you're not the wrong person to ask, because I mean that's a perfect reason, you know, the age-old saying of not judging a book by its cover. And I mean, some of the best people,
Yeah, I'm on the monocle.
some of the best people I've ever had work for me were the people that, by everyone else's standards, would say, "Oh, this person can't do it." I'm I don't know if he's watching, but a guy that worked for me, his name is Danny. I love the guy to pieces. He's like 6'4", 6'5", and he himself would say that he's a goofy goober looking motherfucker. But let me tell you, this guy, when it came to sales and salesmanship and being able to literally relate with every person that walked through the door, he was it. Did I have to beg him to iron his shirts before he came into work? Yeah. Was he still one of the best salesmen that I've ever had the opportunity of managing? Absolutely. And I mean, even like me, like when I worked for AT&T, the general manager of the company told me there is no way in hell that you are going to outsell your counterparts in the store. You're just from a little redneck town, and you aren't going to be able to do anything. And I ended up being like the number one, number two salesman in the franchise for 2 years in a row. And so, I think that's, if anything, that, people, if they watch this, I hope might grasp is, don't take granted, they say you only have one chance to make first impression, but goddamn, like, people have bad days, and I think sometimes a little bit of, if you're in a position of leadership where you're a hiring manager, a little bit of grace will go a long way.
So like, here's where that military perspective comes into play. Yeah, people have bad days. They do. We all have them. But at the same time, if I'm paying you, when it comes to work,
Exactly
I
right.
don't give a shit about your bad day. You better suck that shit up and do the fucking job.
Exactly
You
right.
better present yourself. And you better show up and show out. But
Yep.
here's the thing. We all had the opportunity to learn how to do that by being in the military. The military taught us how to do that. Outside of that particular institution, a lot of people don't get the opportunity to even learn that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Here's where I stand on all of it. I don't give a shit, really. Like, initially, talk about first impressions. I want to know what the fuck you're about. I don't care what kind of clothes you wear. I don't care what you drive or whatever. I want to know what you're about. And if you and I meet and I can vibe with you and I'm digging where you're coming from and I'm digging what you're about, I'm going to help you. If your presentation is lacking, but your product is outstanding, I'm going to help you with your presentation.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you get your presentation on point. If your presentation is on point, but your product is lacking, I'm going to help you get your product on point. Like, I want you to be well-rounded. I want the people around me to succeed. I want them to, be well-versed. And the other thing that gets lost in translation is you have to act according to the environment that you're in.
Yeah.
So
Right.
when I'm at work, if me and my coworker who lives right up above me, if we go to the office and it's just us, I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt and might wear a polo just to, feel special, but that's about it. And we're in the office and we're cutting up, we're getting work done, but we're also cutting up. Now, if that environment changes and our supervisor comes into town, it's a whole nother story. If, we're at an event or, some fundraiser or whatever, you better believe 3-piece suits all the way, shave, cut, and clean. But when me and a select few of guys meet up and we go to cigar lounge, we go out to the club or whatever, it's a whole different fucking story. Like, and a lot of people want to condemn that as being hypocritical or two-faced or whatever, but it's not. Like, it's based off of the environment that you're in. When I'm in a certain environment, I'm going to act according to that environment. If I'm with my boys, I'm not gonna act like I do with the guy who owns my fucking company. No, we're gonna cut up. I'm gonna call you nigga. We're gonna talk jokes. We're gonna talk about your mom. We're gonna talk about fucking your sister. We're gonna pick up chicks and do all that dumb shit. But come Monday, when I gotta show up and show out, none of that shit exists. And I think most people in general never had the opportunity to learn that. So they present a certain way or they act a certain way, and they expect everybody in every environment to accept them like that. And I think the biggest issue is that people haven't learned you need to act according to your environment. You need to present yourself according to your environment. When I was in college, we used to do what are they called? Job fairs all the time. And I would constantly have guys coming in, jeans and oversized t-shirt, ain't really running brush through their hair, didn't shave or whatever. And they talking about, hey nigga, you giving people a job. And I'm like, okay, bro, I get we're in Hampton, but you're at a job fair. You cannot come in like that.
Yeah.
Like around the corner on the block, how you are right now is perfectly fine. But in this environment, that's not okay. So we had Dress for Success seminars all the fucking time. We're like, dude, you don't have to do what I do. You don't have to go to fucking Brooks Brothers and pay $1,800 for a suit. You can go to the fucking thrift store and spend $20 for a fucking suit. And you know what? The fact that you showed up in a suit will mean more than the cost of your suit.
Yeah.
And so,
right.
Like, I was fortunate. I had a father and an uncle and a grandfather who taught me these things. My father told me when I was a kid, act like a businessman.
Yeah.
Didn't know what the fuck that meant when I was a kid, but as I got older and I was in these different environments, I learned very quickly. The thing is, a lot of people didn't have a father and an uncle and a grandfather who taught them that. They didn't have the military experience that taught them all these things. So it's overall, we have a tendency to dismiss things that we don't readily see or that don't readily affect us in any immediate sense. So you have one group of people that says, this is the reality of my life. And then you have another group of people that says, I don't see that. Why are you bitching about it? And I think we have to come to a common understanding that everything in existence operates in it's all by degrees. It's all by a matter of degrees.
Yeah.
I've been to shitty public schools and I have been to not shitty private schools, and the disparity is stark in contrast. But the problems in the private school, the kids in the public school don't see that shit. The problems in the public school, the kids in the private school don't deal with that shit. So neither side sees what happens on the other side. Ergo, it doesn't exist for them. So they don't understand why people are even talking about it, and we can't have the conversation.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest thing I think that most people really need to take from these issues, especially the whole Colin Kaepernick thing and all that stuff, is not that. Listen, it's pretty quite clear that there has been, and there's probably always going to be, some type of divide, racially, gendered. It just seems that the more time goes on in our society and the more our system gets involved, which, as you said earlier, it shouldn't be the system's job, or the system should not have the ability to force me to accept somebody else. That's not what America's about. I shouldn't accept you or be forced to accept you because you're black or because you're a woman. No, I should accept you because of what you offer, what you bring to the table, the sum of your quality. And we all know from our service that there are just as many successful, great female pilots as there are male pilots. There's great black generals and leaders and sergeants and black warriors and special operations guys. I love telling the story of, in my little bit of time that I spent with the reconnaissance community, our dive team sergeant, we used to call him Darkness. This motherfucker was every bit as big and black as Wesley Snipes. I mean, like fucking black out the sky, fucking Rocky IV when he walked into the room. All right, only black. And this motherfucker during swim qual would be there in his UDT shorts, and he would throw kids, Lance Corporals, whoever, into the pool, and especially the black kids, or some of them who had a little bit of apprehension about going in the water, and he would sit there in every bit of his fucking glory, and he would say, if my big black ass could get in here and swim 50 meters underwater without surfacing for air, you could do it. Get your fucking black ass in the pool, or I'm gonna throw you in the fucking pool. And it happened, and every one of us was like, you know what? He's fucking right. I don't give a shit what color you are, because that's really what taught me about. It's not right to fall back on that crutch, because that's all you're doing. It's not right for me to fall back on a crutch. Oh, well, I can't swim because I'm black, or I can't dance because I'm white. Get the fuck out of here with that shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's nothing more than a crutch. You can do it. You might not have as much natural ability to do it as a person of a different culture, let's say, because let's be honest, I've never known a black dude that can't dance except Carlton, and in real life that motherfucker can dance. You know what I'm saying? It was just an act for fucking Will Smith for the show. But at the same time, I know plenty of fucking white dudes that can cut up like that. It just takes a little bit of practice. You might not have the natural finesse on the ball court as a black dude, but Jesus Christ, if you practice hard enough, you can get there. And that's what I think so many people should take from this, is that, again, going back to the Kaepernick thing, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. Not saying you should, not saying don't get your message out, not saying don't take a stand for something, because that's what our fucking country was based on, taking a stand,
Yeah.
And and we should never lose that as a people, because that's what makes us great. That, I think, truly above all else, is what makes us American. Is that I don't care what it is, whether it's gay rights or fucking tattoos or anything. If we don't like it, we're gonna figure out a way. We're gonna get our voice collected together, and we're gonna take a stand until it fucking changes. However, in the process of doing that, we need to realize that, you know what? We're probably gonna make some enemies here, and we're probably gonna get some resistance. So, is the best way to accomplish my goal to do it the aggressive way? And a lot of times as Americans, that is our first choices, because by nature, by social nature, we are an aggressive people, whether it's social aggressiveness, emotional aggressiveness, or just good old-fashioned physical aggressiveness. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think, if anything, that's our American, what was the word we're talking about there? Culture. What we are as American, we're violent. We're just violent motherfuckers in every sense of the form, So, but that doesn't always have to be the case. You can have control, that concept of controlled violence, controlled aggression. You can focus that energy in the library. You could focus that energy in the pool. You could focus that energy in the basketball court, or the skating rink, or the dance floor. Whatever you do it hard. You know what I'm saying? Do it all the way. Have grit. Have tenaciousness. And if you get knocked down, you're going to get knocked down. Don't bitch and moan about it. Don't point your finger at the guy next to you, or at Trump, or at Obama, or at anyone else but you. Look in the mirror and say, listen, what the fuck have I done today to perfect my skill at being a ball player? If I just played a few games of fucking basketball, or if I really went out to the court and broke my fucking back off learning something, from the old timers. I mean, and that's really what I think our society has gone to, is that if we try something and we fail immediately, which is almost a certain unless we're naturals or something, we just point the finger and cry like little bitches until it's fucking given to us. And that's not the American way.
So who determines the metric on when is it appropriate and how is it appropriate to get your message across? Because Dr. King preached nonviolence. He preached civility. He preached working with others, and they shot him for it. I mean, Marcus Garvey, they shot him for it. Like every time.
That's exactly right.
Every time that we've sat.
It's not. Again, it's all about free will. As long as we accept the fact that, like I said earlier, if we make this choice, chances are we're going to have some very negative repercussions. As long as you're willing to live with that or die for it, then so be it. That's part of being an American. Hell, I said, that's what made us who we are.
the inherent nature of protests, though, is resistance. It is antagonistic. It is hostility against whatever your message is. That's the entire point of protest. You're going against the status quo, so you already know that you're going to piss people off. So, you know, I hear the argument, well, you shouldn't do it at this time, at this time, at this time. You should do it a different way. Well, again, historically, we've done it every which way imaginable, and nobody pays attention until you get in somebody's face and say, no, motherfucker, you're going to pay attention to me. Like, it's interesting to me that, you know, Kaepernick can sit there and do his protest. And again, I think the motivations behind it were bullshit. But even a broken watch is right twice a day. The man said, we have a problem with our police. And not every police officer is an asshole. I know plenty of good guys, but I've also met plenty of fucking shitty ones. So he says we have a problem with police and how they either are not held accountable for their actions, or when they are, they're let off so light. And then we turn around and we say, oh, fuck you, you're wrong, you're full of shit. But then we turn around and we have a cop enter another man's home and murder him and lie about it, and then turn around and get 10 years knowing that she's only going to serve 5, if even that. Well, we got niggas in fucking jail for having a fucking gram of weed. Like, come on. We can't sit there and say the man and his shit was bullshit when the exact thing that he's been talking about is exactly what we see happening. And we're more concerned over the fact that her brother gave him a hug, or his brother gave her a hug and said, I forgive you. We care more about that than the fact that nigga was right in the first place. We say you need to forgive people. You need to turn the other cheek and be like Jesus. We're like, yo, how about you don't fucking do this shit in the first place?
Right. Well,
so who determines?
And here's another thing is that not like you said, not every cop is bad. You know, not every black dude walking down the street with his pants around his fucking ass is a thug. Looking to do bad things and slang dope and shoot people. I mean, but in this day and age, when everyone's got a voice, everyone's got a phone, and that's all they're going to see. So
that's true.
It all goes back to, it all goes back to the just like I said, like the politic thing. Politicking while you're in uniform. Like they used to say, you can have a voice. You're still American. You can have a voice, but not in that uniform.
I will say, if I was a police officer and I rolled up on one of these dumb motherfuckers that go, I know my rights. I'm like, sure, Steve Jessup, you know your rights. Roll down your fucking window. Like, I'm sorry. If I was a police officer and all I'm doing is trying to pull someone over because they're speeding or they don't have their seatbelt on or they're talking on the phone, they're doing some fucking thing that's illegal.
Right.
And they don't, like, I mean, because I've had, just like you guys said, I've met really cool fucking cops and I've met some asshole cops.
Assholes, right?
But
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, like, if I get caught doing something wrong, like the last time that I got pulled over for a speeding ticket, I was going like 19 over, and the cop pulled me over and he says, "Do you know why I'm pulling you over?" And I said, "Yes, officer, it's because I was speeding." And he says, "Do you know about how fast I clocked you?" And I said, "When I saw you and I looked down, my speedometer said 79.
Right.
And he's like, holy shit, like, you're being, like, he was flabbergasted that I was just telling the truth and being upfront and honest with them. And I told him, I was like, I knew what I was doing. It's not like I was going, 66 or 67. I mean, I was going fucking, way over the speed limit. And, and so then you get these people that just want to, just be fucking idiots. And that's why I could never be a police officer. Because, that would drive me bonkers.
It takes a special type of person to deal with that all day long, because I would imagine there's a lot more assholes that are going to waste your time and try making up stories. And like you said, people, oh, I know my rights. You're going to get a lot more of those. Then you're going to get civilized people like you who, yeah, okay, you're right. I was breaking the law. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm not making any excuse. However, again, that goes back to free will. you could just as easily have made the choice and acted, oh, I know my right, motherfucker. You can't tell. Okay, fine. If you wanna play the role and be an asshole and be purposely disruptive in a situation that does not warrant it, then you're going to get dealt with accordingly. And to expect any kind of other treatment from the cop is absolutely asinine. To be brutally honest, I'm completely surprised.
Ryan, you look like you're itching. You're itching to comment.
No, I want to hear what Angela's saying. I'll
Okay.
comment after that.
But at the same time, it doesn't make it right when they do, because an officer, especially in this day and age, is bestowed that responsibility to be more than human. While you're in that uniform, just like when we were in that uniform, we had to be more than just an average person from Michigan or from Connecticut or from anywhere, wherever the hell any of us were from. We were more. And that's really what makes us great at what we do in the afterlife outside of the uniform, is we still carry that with us, that mindset. And that's all I'm saying is, yes, it's a complicated thing, having that empathy that person you're dealing with at that point in time might be having a completely shitty day. However, it still does not excuse conscious decision making from right and wrong. It doesn't give anyone the right to not be respectful to one another, but it also doesn't give anyone the right to not say, you know what? Okay, I understand you're having a shitty day, but you know what, dude? I don't give a flying fuck. You were still speeding, and I don't care why you were speeding, so here's your ticket. Have a good day. And you can motherfuck me up, right, down, left, right, and sideways. All that's going to do is get you more and more charges. And the second you step out of that car, now you're going to jail, motherfucker. And chances are you're going in the fucking back of an ambulance. Because you want to get froggy with me? You want to be stupid? All right.
There's only enough room on this lily pad for one motherfucker.
Exactly. But the point is that the person, you're making that choice to escalate it, you know? So, again, it cuts both ways. I don't have to care about what you have going. I don't have to care about your life. I don't have to care about I don't have to have sympathy for you. I don't have to have empathy for you, and I don't have to have sympathy for you. Is that a good way to be? No, because it doesn't really, you get more flies with honey than you do vinegar. However, that's definitely a concept more people need to learn, is that, you know what? No, your boss doesn't have to have empathy for you. Your boss doesn't have to give a shit about why you were late 3 times in a row. I truly don't give a fuck that your kid is sick. I feel for you, but I don't give a shit. I didn't hire you to be late because your kid was sick. I don't have to care about that. Again, is that the right response? Probably not. But also, like one of you guys said earlier, you're not being paid to be late. You're not being paid to provide reasons, excuses, conjecture, any of that. You're being paid to show up on time and perform a service. And if you can't perform that service, then I guess the contract is null and void. So that concept right there is a very tough one for people to swallow. I know it's a very upfront and blatant way to put it, but it just goes back to, like I said, I shouldn't be forced to accept anybody because of their religion, what's between their legs. I don't give a fuck what color your skin is. I shouldn't be forced to abide somebody because of those. That's not the American way, and that goes both ways. I shouldn't be forced to swallow this and listen to it and deal with it simply because society tells me to. You know what I mean? So, forgive me for not having sympathy or having empathy, because, let's be honest, I don't know too many guys like us who've been overseas who have much of either one of those,
Yeah.
But it doesn't,
All right, Ryan.
It doesn't stop from having to be responsible and respectful.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, wrap us up.
So, when I was 16, I used to ride my bike everywhere. I had a fun car. I didn't have a job. So, I ride my bike everywhere. Docks are down the street from the house. So I'd ride out. It was a nice neighborhood. My dad got his inheritance. My grandfather died, built this nice house in the county. It was great. Riding out one night, going to my friend's house, get pulled over by a cop on my bike in York County, where there's like 10 black people. And he's like, yeah, I pulled you over because we've been having a lot of break-ins and vandalism and blah, blah. I'm like, bro, I'm wearing sandals and basketball shorts and a fucking wife beater. Do I look like I just stole something?
Right.
Like, where the fuck am I going to carry it? It's not on my asshole. I can promise you that. So fast forward, August of 2009. Lived in the hood outside of Fort Hood. I just realized that. Yeah, lived in the ghetto outside of Fort Hood. It was a bunch of us. We all, just kind of split a place or whatever. We all used to kick it there. Went to a gun show. My girlfriend at the time bought me this beautiful knife. I collect knives. It was a butterfly knife. Walked across the street when we got home to get a pack of cigarettes. Walking back across, cops were in town or in the neighborhood, and they're just talking to people. Blah blah blah. Hey, sir, you mind if we talk to you? Yeah, sure, whatever. Blah blah blah. Hey, do you mind if we search you? I haven't done anything wrong. I'm complying. Sure, yeah, go ahead. I got a pocket knife in my back pocket. Bam, handcuffs, arrested because it's a butterfly knife. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. However, I didn't know that I couldn't carry a fucking butterfly knife in my pocket across the street, but I got arrested for it. Go to court. Judge is like, yo, why the fuck is this in my court? This dude's got no record. He's in the fucking army. My chain of command, however, did not see it that way. I was branded as a thug because I was a black guy with a knife in the hood. Fast forward again. Earlier this year on one of my campaigns, I was in Plano, Texas, visiting a friend. Got pulled over. Had a very nice truck. Paid a lot of money for it. I worked hard for that money. I worked hard for that truck. Had a very nice interior, blah, blah, blah. Cop doesn't care about whatever the fuck you pull me over for. He's looking at my truck. Oh, so this must be a company truck, right? No, it's mine. Really? Who do you work for? It's none of your fucking business. I've never seen a setup like this before. That's great. Now you have. Why the fuck am I pulled over? So, like, I've had plenty of experiences with shitty cops. And early on in my life, I did not know my rights. So now that I do, after having all of these experiences with these cops, I am inclined to automatically distrust any cop who disregards a citizen knowing their rights. True. Because in college, I had a police officer straight up tell me in a hearing, you're just a student. You don't know your rights, or you don't know the law. We're police. We know the law. And I sat there and I was like, I want to make sure every person in this room right now heard what she just said. I need each of you to confirm that you all heard her say that. Turns out after that whole event, another student that was also involved turned around and sued the fucking school, sued the entire fucking system in the state, and won.
Good for them. Good for them.
Nice.
So having had numerous bad interactions with cops who just assumed that I didn't know my rights and tried to take advantage of that, guess what? Innocent, guilty, whatever. I don't care. I ain't got shit to say to you. I am not obligated to say shit to you. I am not obligated to give you a goddamn thing. So you can pull me over.
That's 100%.
And I'll sit there. And so for me, it really depends on how they approach me. I got pulled over and I wasn't pulled over. My old truck, the wheel was loose, and I pulled over, and after coming from the beach, fishing all night, pulled over, tightened it up, got back in my truck. Cops pull up, and he's just like, "Hey, you know why I pulled in here?" And I'm like, "Honestly, I really don't." And he was like, "Yeah, so you're parked in the parking lot of a school right now." And I was like, "Oh shit, I didn't even know this was a school." It was dark, and I didn't see the building. And I was just like, "Oh shit, my bad, dude." And he was like, "So why are you here?" Told him, just came from the pier. You can look in the back. Got all my gear. Got the fish right fucking there. And he's just like, "Okay, so yeah, you tightened up your tire." And I was like, "Yeah, I was headed out." And he was like, "Okay, sorry for bothering you." And I was like, "No, it's all good. Like, I completely get it. It does look weird. Whatever, dude, you're doing your job." It depends.
But he came to you man to man, like he did it in a respectful manner, and I think that's where it all comes down. Like, if we're being a docile citizen, showing respect to the badge and the uniform, at the very least, we expect a little bit respect back of trust that we are innocent until you find a reason to find us guilty.
So, like, here's the thing. Everybody on the other side of that particular issue wants to tell citizens, you have to give respect in order to get it. Well, guess what, motherfucker? If you have a badge, you have to respect me as well. Yeah. I give you respect, and you give me your respect. When you approach me, you give me your respect, and I give you. It's a two-way fucking street. Guess what? The whole argument that if
Even
you just
worse.
comply, you won't have any problems, that's complete
That's
bullshit.
wrong.
Because guess what? I complied, and I got arrested over some bullshit, and then the judge threw it out. Guess what? Philando Castile complied, and he got fucking shot and killed for it. Fucking Botham Jean complied, he got shot and killed for it. There was a fucking white dude laying on the floor of a hotel, and he complied, and he got shot and killed for it. So I would like us to stop using these bullshit arguments and actually hold these people accountable. If you are, just like we were in the military, we were held to a higher standard. We were held to exacting strict standards. You cannot take this action unless you first meet these specific requirements.
Yeah.
We had
If
rules
this,
of
then
engagement
that.
in a fucking war zone. We had rules of engagement. Police don't.
Yeah.
And that is a fucking problem.
They do. Again, they just don't. That's exactly.
They just don't follow them.
If at any point in time they do, they just choose either they're not properly trained, or they're not in the proper mindset, or if they're both of those, like you said, sometimes they're just not held accountable for it, and that's the issue. It's that obviously policing is just like it was over. That's basically what, after it was all said and done, and we were doing in Iraq, playing fucking police officer. It was an extremely difficult thing. I can only imagine what it's like to put on the blue uniform out here and have to deal with it. You're constantly. It takes a hell of a lot more than it did 20, especially even before that, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So it takes a very special person. But again,
well, 50 years ago, I could get my ass beat just for walking down the wrong side of the street. So,
that's what I'm saying though, is that you're right. It doesn't, respect goes both ways. But the people that wear that uniform, they are there to protect and serve, and sometimes they forget that, or they're just not cognizant of that, or they took the job for the wrong reasons. And yes, they should be held accountable to the exact same, if not a greater standard. They should dole out more respect initially before the public does, because again, they are the ones in the position of authority. They are the ones who, just like when we were in uniform, they made the choice. We made the choice to be in uniform. We should hold ourselves to a higher standard. They should hold themselves to a higher standard. And when they don't, they should be made examples of. Because that one single little stupid instance now drags down the entire group, just like it did for us.
Yeah.
When you got one Marine over there in Okinawa who gets drunk and rapes some little fucking girl, and all of a sudden every Marine is a rapist, when that's not the case. That's not even close to being the case. You got one Marine out of probably fucking 35,000 that are over there in that area. And all of a sudden one man, is now being the role model for everyone else. That's along the same lines, and that's exactly what racism is. Oh, and one fucking thug is now representing everyone. No, that's absolutely horseshit. So,
it's fucked up, because I have a lot of friends on the force, and I worry about these guys all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
I've put enough friends in the ground in uniform. I don't want to have to do it any fucking more. And I worry about these guys, because they're out there, and there's this whole attitude of polarization. All cops are bad because these cops were bad. And then on the flip side, all citizens are bad because these citizens are bad. Right. So we've got polarization on both ends, and they just keep clashing. And on a regular basis, I'm just like, yo, bro, I just need to know you're okay. Like, are you good? And we shouldn't be like that. Like we have some differing views and opinions and perspectives, but we can sit here and talk about it. Like, that's what we should be trying to do, not sitting there trying to shout other people down.
Right. And at the same time, the instances that we're talking about are a fraction of a percent. They're just the ones that make the headlines, and thus the ones that we all hear about. They're the ones that get everybody rattled up. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just like the whole gun debate. Every single day, how many millions of rifles sit there in someone's safe or in someone's car, or handguns in someone's hip, and they don't do any damage, but one fucking stupid motherfucker picks up a gun and goes on a mass murdering spree, and all of a sudden, all gun owners are bad. All guns need to go away. No, that's not the case. Because what's next? All all fucking Lamborghinis need to go away because they have much greater preponderance to cause death and bodily harm. No, this is America. If I want to own a Lamborghini, as extravagant and stupid as it is, it's my money. It's my fucking choice.
I mean, I think Lamborghini should be banned just because they're fucking dumb. But we live in a free country, so.
Well, okay, you see, and here's the thing behind that is that's exactly what's going on with a lot of things in our nation. You've got people who I just don't like rap music. So you know what? I don't want to fucking hear it. Anybody who plays rap music is automatically a thug and a criminal.
Tipper Gore, anybody remember that? Tipper Gore, remember her?
Right. And how stupid was that? You know, every single person who drives a fucking pickup truck is a redneck who fucks his cousin. Okay. Yeah, how stupid that sounds. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
so, but that's my point. That's humanity.
Yeah, so do I.
You're never going to legislate humanity out of humanity. The opinions, as stupid as they can be, out of humanity. So that's why it's so important to educate yourself properly, not just through Google or what you see online, or especially not what you read in the media.
Fucking Barrett's lawyers.
Right. Learn your rights like you did, Ryan, whether it be the hard way or through education. Get involved. You don't know that you don't have to talk to a cop. I had a couple of them knocking my door about a year ago say, Mr. Stengo, can we talk to you? I say, yeah, you can talk to me right out there in my doorstep unless you have a warrant. And they kind of looked at me like, I'm like, are you guys here for some? I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I don't know either one of you. I said, my brother's on the force. I said, if he was here, he can come to my house, but I don't know either one of you. And with all due respect, I'll get you a beer, I'll get you a cold glass of water, but I don't want you in my house. I mean, unless you have a warrant. And they both kind of looked at me like, and I'm like, hey, don't get me wrong. I love every one of you guys. I mean, I have a complete respect for what you do, but don't think for a second that I'm going to allow you to make some half-assed attempt to take my rights from me.
Maybe not every one of y'all. I like a few of them. Maybe not every one of them. But yo, hey,
yeah, you know how I'm going. It's just like,
yeah, we got to wrap this up.
Yeah. It's Christ. We've been bullshitting for fucking almost 2 hours. God damn. Just be reasonable. That's what I tell people all the time. Be fucking reasonable. You know.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
You know?
All right, fellas. Well, Ryan, Angelo, thank you again for your time, guys. We'll be here next Monday doing same shit, just a different day. And one thing I want to talk about next week is struggles that you had when you first got out of the military and advice that you might have for people who are about to get out. So think about that, and then that's one of the first things I want to chat about next week when we connect.
Awesome.
Don't get out.
Yeah, yeah, right? Shit. Yeah. Good call. All right, fellas. Have a good evening. I'll see you next week.
All right, you too.
Go easy, guys.
Later.
Later.